Yes, Mr Hoskin.
Commissioner, the next witness is Philip Bowden.
Mr Bowden. May I ask Mr Bowden whether you'd prefer to make an oath or take an affirmation?
Take an oath.
Yes, swear the witness, please.
Yep.
I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, Mr Bowden. Do sit down. Yes, Mr Hoskin.
Mr.
Costello, sorry. Really, talk about
has been
slip
a
a
week,
cog.
Commissioner. Your full name.
One of you's insulted.
I'm not going to comment. Your full name is Philip Stewart Bowden.
That's correct.
And your business address is Lot 6, 93 Chesterfield Circuit, Nulumboy.
That's correct.
And that's spelled Nhulunbuy. And you're a financial counsellor.
That's correct.
And you attend today in answer to a summons served on you by the Commission.
That's correct.
You have that summons
Yes,
with
I
you?
do.
I tender that summons.
Bit of 4.199. Summons to Mr Bowden.
Mr Bowden, have you made a statement in answer to a request from the Commission?
Yes, I have.
And are the contents of that statement true and correct?
They are. There just needs to be one correction.
What's that correction?
Just the date.
This is on the first page.
Yes, it is.
There's no date in front of July. When did you sign that statement?
2 days ago.
Can I give you a hint and say yesterday?
It was yesterday. Sorry. Yesterday.
Could you mark it with a 4 in front of July and initial that change, please? I'll ask you again just to be certain. With that amendment, are the contents of that correct? That statement true and correct?
Yes, it is.
I tender that statement.
Exhibit 4.200 will be the statement of Mr Bowden.
Mr Bowden, could you give the Commissioner some information about your work in community development before you came into your current role?
Yes, I lived overseas in Cambodia. I did development work over there for quite a long period of time. But in that time, where I did community development work, and I was also a CEO of International Cooperation Cambodia, which was a conglomerate of a few agencies that had come together. I'd also done a lot of voluntary work and helped start some small NGOs there.
What have you done since you returned to Australia before your current role?
I returned back to Sydney, Australia, and for 2.5 years I worked for Salvation Army, and I was trained as a financial counsellor.
You're a qualified financial counsellor?
Yes, I am.
And when did you start working for Anglicare NT?
2016.
You live and work in East Arnhem Land?
Yes, I do.
What work does Anglicare NT do in East Arnhem Land?
We have a hub of people that... I'm the only financial counsellor in East Arnhem Land, but we also have financial capability workers, and that work entails going out to communities and helping with any financial issues, as well as education, things to that regard.
Could you explain the difference between a financial counsellor and a financial capability worker?
Yeah, a financial counsellor is... we have exemption through ASIC to talk about financial products, to talk about debts that a client may have, and also give advice and options on those debts. It could be organising a payment plan for a client. It could be talking about bankruptcy and the information around that. So a financial capability worker has kind of restrictions on them. They're not allowed to talk about those sorts of things, but they'll look at budgets, they'll help people with forms, those sorts of issues, and do a lot of education.
A financial capability worker is generally more concerned with practical day-to-day matters of finance, as opposed to giving advice
Yeah, sure.
for longer term.
Sure. Just simple issues, or just education around how things work, especially out in East Arnhem Land. They could be education regarding insurance. What is insurance? What does that mean? It could be how bank accounts work. It could be helping to.
Mr. Costello, apparently the stream's down, I think. Yes, the stream is down, so might adjourn for a time to see if we can get it going again. Perhaps if I say I'll come back at 2:15 or shortly before, unless I'm sent for earlier. 15:15. I'm having a good afternoon, aren't I, Mr. Costello? I'm really having a good afternoon. Come back at 15:15 unless I'm sent for earlier. Costello.
Mr. Bowden, just before we adjourned, you were giving some evidence about the different work done by financial counsellors as opposed to financial capability workers. Is it fair to say that part of the role of a financial counsellor is to build financial literacy?
Yep, that's true.
So that clients are better able to look after their own financial affairs into the future?
That's true. Yep.
And is that
and make choices of what options that they want to carry out with their issues.
Thank you. Is that what you spend a lot of your time doing?
No, not really. Not in East Arnhem Land.
Why is that?
Most of East Arnhem Land's a little bit different. It's different from what I did in Sydney. We have a lot of superannuation issues, a lot of questions about superannuation in East Arnhem Land. So that probably takes up 80% of my time.
Are these questions by clients of yours that are trying to access their superannuation?
Yeah, it could be a number of things. It could be accessing, getting close to their, or on their preservation age. It could be searches, searching for super. So we get a lot of Aboriginal people coming in trying to look for money. And it could be also like things like deceased estates.
I see. And that occupies a lot of your time?
Yeah, it's about 80%. So, we're trying to work with the superannuation industry and advocate for changes, advocate that maybe just to encourage them to look after their clients, because obviously Aboriginal people have issues with identification, and that was obviously brought up with Linda Edwards in the beginning of the week regarding those sorts of Aboriginal issues, trying to access their super or deceased estates, those sorts of things.
And where in East Arnhem Land does Anglicare do work?
We do work, we have an office in Nhulunbuy, and we have 3 people there, myself and 2 financial capability workers. And we also, we go out from there on Cessnas to a lot of these remote locations. So we service places from Groote Eylandt, Numbulwar, obviously the Gulf Peninsula, as well as I travel also out to Lake Avella, Gapawiak. And we also have 2 Aboriginal staff in Ramagini, and we also travel to Milingimbi and Elko Island, which is Gallagher.
One of the places you mentioned was Groote Eylandt.
Yep.
You travel there by plane from Nhulunbuy?
Yeah, there is a service with Air North that does go there once a week. So I usually travel on a Tuesday to there. Usually spend 4 days, but usually have to get a charter back to Nhulunbuy.
And how often do you travel to Groote?
I try to get out there at least once a month.
Okay. And does Anglicare have financial capability workers or worker on Groote Eylandt?
Yeah, they do at the present. Yes, they do.
Just the one?
Just the one.
I see. And you work closely with that person?
Yeah, I do. Yep. He will be leaving next month though.
Okay. Is retention of staff an issue?
Yeah, it is because of the remoteness and a lot of transient work that goes on. Yeah, it's hard to recruit and retain staff.
Speaking of Groote Eylandt generally, is Groote Eylandt predominantly Indigenous?
Yes, there's a company called Gemco that is there, and they do some mining. So there is an ANZ branch there on the island, and it's around about 1,500, I think, Aboriginal people that live on the island.
And how many towns are there on Groote?
There's three. There's three kind of main places.
Okay. And do you work out of just one of them, or do you travel?
Yes, I live in town. I stay in town, and then we travel out to Nurragoon, and I usually try and at least get out to Macumba once in a visit.
All right. Speaking generally, to the extent that you can, is there a range of financial literacy that you see in your clients on Groote? Would you say some people are quite financially literate and others are not very financially literate?
Oh yeah, there would be. There's obviously well-educated Aboriginal people there, but there's also a huge amount of literacy is a problem. Literacy as well as financial literacy.
Yes, I see. And are the people that you work most closely with generally on the lower end of the financial literacy scale?
That's correct. We kind of partner with other organisations. We have an office inside the Gibi office. We kind of share resources, and that's kind of like a work for the dole scheme. And so a lot of the participants come into that, and we get that cross fertilisation of sharing clients and being able to do some literacy upstairs with them and those sorts of issues.
Would it be uncommon for one of your clients to be unfamiliar with something like a minus symbol?
Oh yes, that is. Yep. That in my witness statement, I think I said I did come across a client that had came to me and said that she couldn't get her $200. I think it was around $200, and I tried to explain to her that was a minus symbol, and so I just did some work on the board with her. It's an overdraft. You've used the bank's money, so you need to pay that back. So we did little education sessions around that, and just showed her that once she pays the bank back its money, then everything from zero up is yours.
Right. Is English the first language of most of your clients?
No, it could quite easily be the third or fourth language.
And is there any other bank on Groote Eylandt? Okay. Would it be fair to say that a significant proportion of your clients would receive Centrelink payments?
Yes.
Okay. You say in your witness statement that one of Anglicare's financial capability workers first raised with you that the accounts of the financial capability workers' clients were being overdrawn.
Yes, that's correct.
And that their accounts were being left with negative balances and sometimes very low balances even after they'd received their Centrelink payment.
Yeah, that was correct. I didn't have a full understanding of why some of the clients had signed up for overdrafts. So it was just conversations that happened in the office
Between you and the financial capability worker?
Yeah, but it also happened with one of the workers in there as well. She brought up that she thought she saw one of the clients have a letter that was an opt-out letter for an overdraft. I asked her if she could get me a copy of that, or ask the client, but I never received that, so I didn't pursue it any further.
I see. So were you surprised to see that client accounts were going into negative balances?
Yeah, I was surprised that our clients would go down and apply for an overdraft.
I see. And the financial capability worker that you had this discussion with,
yep.
Is that person still with Anglicare?
No, she's moved on.
Okay. But in preparing your witness statement, you've reviewed her notes?
Yeah, I did. So I just reviewed her notes, and that is part of my witness statement.
And have you also spoken with her?
Yes, just to clarify a few points. I wasn't. Sometimes when people write notes, you read them, but you kind of don't understand the backstory of those notes.
I see. In your witness statement, you set out the position of two of Anglicare's clients on Groote.
Sorry, say again?
In your witness statement, you set out the story of two of Anglicare's clients on Groote Eylandt.
Yes, that's correct.
And you've not used the name of either client in your witness statement.
No, I haven't.
And why haven't you used the name?
Just for privacy.
I see. I'll call them client 1 and client 2 as you have in your witness statement, without meaning to be in any way disrespectful to the clients. First client, client 1, spoke with the financial capability worker on the 14th of December 2017.
Yep, that's what was in the notes.
And how did that person come to speak to the financial capability worker?
It said in the notes that it was through Centrelink.
And is it common that Centrelink would refer somebody to a financial capability worker?
Yeah, we work very closely with Centrelink. We often pop in and meet the staff. I think last time I was there, we popped in and said hello. And yeah, we work very closely. They know what we do, and there's a lot of referrals back and forth.
Why was this person referred to you by Centrelink?
It was referred to
To Anglicare by Centrelink.
It said in the notes that that the bank, that the family, the client's family would commonly take his bank card and spend money from the client's account. So, as you probably heard earlier on in the week, this is a common occurrence with Aboriginal people. They don't really work as individual as we do, as they would call us Ballander. It's not a Ballander way, it's more of a sharing way. So they would share resources. So this is kind of a common practice that they would share the resource, share cards. So that's what's happened in this case, which is then being overdrawn.
So the client's family would make use of the card to the client's
Correct.
account, and sometimes that would mean that Centrelink payments were being used to pay overdrawn amounts.
Yes, it would obviously, the Centrelink payment, it says in the statement there, would be used to pay back.
And what did the financial capability worker do?
The financial capability worker took the client, tried to educate the client on what an overdraft was, and try to get the client to understand what that product was. And then obviously financial capability worker took the client to the bank.
And did this client speak English?
No.
So how did the financial capability worker communicate with the client?
I think it was through the Centrelink. It helped with that to translate.
Right. And you said the financial capability worker took the client to the bank.
Yep.
And did the financial capability worker establish that the client had an overdraft?
Yes.
And how much was that overdraft?
It said in her notes that it was the account could be overdrawn to $1,000.
I see. So what did the financial capability worker and the client do at the bank?
It says in the notes that the financial capability worker explained to the bank teller that the ability to overdraw was not benefiting the client. This is what it states in the notes, and asked it to be switched off.
And something called 90% arrangement, something that you're familiar with?
I wasn't at the time until we started to delve into this and spoke to Centrelink about Centrelink payments and overdrafts.
And do you now have an understanding of what 90% arrangements are?
Yes, I do.
Could you explain what 90% arrangements are?
And 90% arrangement is that when an account goes into overdraft and there's a Centrelink payment involved, that they'll only use 10% to repay back that overdraft, and that the client would receive the 90%.
And is that why in the witness statement, at paragraph 25, it mentions a $600 debt being paid off, but the bank was only allowed to take 10% each week?
Yes, so trying to read into her notes, I'm pretty sure that's what the outcome was.
All right. The second client was referred to the financial capability worker on the 30th of November 2017. Was this the same financial capability worker?
Yes, it is.
And who referred this client?
This client had obviously come in, because it says there in note 28, the financial capability worker and the client discussed the client's current income and expense. There could be a time when some budgeting or some information was shared, and obviously this conversation, it looks like, has started over how to budget. That's how I read into it.
There's a reference in your witness statement to Groote Eylandt and Bickerton Island Enterprises.
Yep.
What is that?
That is, it's basically like a work for the dole scheme, and that's who we kind of partner with when it comes to getting referrals through them and clients coming in to do their activities.
You'd commonly work with participants in the scheme run by that entity?
Yes, that's correct.
I see. When the client spoke with the financial capability worker, was the client's account overdrawn?
In the notes, yes, it states that it was overdrawn by $310.
Did the client understand what an overdraft was?
It says in the notes that no, the client had no such understanding.
So what did the financial capability worker do on this occasion with this client?
It says in the notes that the financial capability worker provided some education about overdrafts, and the client decided to contact the bank to cancel any overdraft available on the client's account.
And was the overdraft cancelled?
No, it says here that that they needed to go to the branch.
They needed to go to the branch for what?
It says here in the note 26, the financial capability worker assisted the client to call the bank. The client was unable to be assisted over the phone and needed to visit the branch.
Right. And did they visit the branch?
They did. It's about a 25-minute journey into town, and the financial capability worker took the client to the bank.
Where are they journeying from?
Miragu?
Right.
Yeah, into town.
And
Mingula.
And so they went to town and they went into the bank. Did the financial capability worker take the client to the bank?
Yes, they did. It says in my number 30, at the bank, the client was told that it was possible to cancel the overdraft, but that because the account was locked at the time, it would be necessary to return to the bank on Friday. This must be at a later date. After the client's Centrelink payment had been deposited so that the outstanding balance could be cleared.
Did they return to the bank on Friday?
Further down the notes, it does state they returned to the bank.
And when they returned to the bank, did they successfully cancel the overdraft?
My notes 30 says the capability worker assisted the client to go to the bank and take out cash from her account. 10% of her family benefit payment was used to pay back the overdraft. Because the client took money leaving the account overdrawn, her account remained locked until the overdraft was paid off.
That's another reference to the 90% arrangements.
Yeah.
All right. Are there many clients that you're aware of that are on 90% arrangements on Groote Eylandt?
No, I don't know of any others other than these ones.
And is it something you've encountered in East Arnhem Land more generally?
No, we have a Westpac branch in Nhulunbuy, and I've never come across it around the Gove area.
Right. What about the concept of an informal overdraft? Is that a concept that you've encountered in East Arnhem Land more generally?
No, not really. A lot of the other areas that we go to, there's different sorts of banks. There's TCU, and they have different arrangements. So I've never come across it other than there.
And do you think that there is any benefit in an overdraft arrangement being either opt-in or opt-out?
I mean, I'm not against overdrafts. If a client wants an overdraft, I think that's up to the client. As long as the client's educated in what an overdraft is. I think if there was letters that were sent out to opt out, I think that's problematic because of literacy rates and because of financial literacy understanding.
Do you understand that either client 1 or client 2 opted into an overdraft?
Not by the notes. We couldn't ascertain that because of language barriers. Sometimes we receive yes answers, but it's comprehension and understanding what the product is.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. I have no further questions. Commissioner.
Costello, yes, Ms. Williams.
I have no further questions, Commissioner. As foreshadowed with Counsel assisting and the solicitors for the Commission earlier.
I'm sorry, Ms. Williams, I'm losing you.
I'm sorry. There are some documents I wish to tender at a convenient point, but I have no questions for Mr. Bowden.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Bowden. You may step down. You're excused further attendance.